as we think about meeting today, it struck me how important it is to be meeting here in this meeting house. And I went through just quickly, some of the anti-slavery statements in the 1830s and 40s from Farmington Friends who belonged to this meeting. And the ones I ended up with were all actually Orthodox Friends. There is a list on the table if you'd like to see them. I just put 4 quick ones, but here are 3 of them quickly. In 1840, in November, J.C. Hathaway wrote an invitation to people to come to anti-slavery meetings in Western New York. And he said, we invite all, this applies to us today, we invite all to come to the rallies, including the old and young, the grave and the gay, men, women, and children, all who claim to be human, come up to the rescue of suffering humanity. And in 1846, J.C. Hathaway, whose house is still standing right down the road, said, there seems to be a spirit of inquiry awakened, and the people are anxious to hear on this subject. Resolved that this meeting enters its solemn protest against the war, which was against Mexico, 1846-8, at which our country is presently engaged, but you can apply some of this to what we're facing now. And before God and the civilized world, we hold the chief magistrate of this nation, his aiders and abettors, as criminally responsible for the destruction of life and great tax upon the natural resources resulting from this war. And then Phoebe Hathaway, whose house Jody Davis now lives in right down the road, was secretary of the Farmington Friends Female Anti-Slavery Society, and she wrote in 1838, our weapons should not be carnal, but the weapons of peace and love, of truth and righteousness. In that spirit, I'd like to invite Lyle Jenks to come up and introduce Meg Ewing-Reed, who will introduce our speaker, and then we will see a fabulous film that's really a powerful statement about these issues that we're facing. Thank you, Lyle.
Thanks, Judy. It feels a little bit like previews at a movie theater. We're going to get to the main attraction real soon. As someone who's been part of the 1816 project now for some years, it's wonderful to reach this milestone and for you all to be here and see it and even feel it. I was watching some of you going up and touching the new wood on the side of the building. Today is getting toward the end of our program series for the year. We'll convene again, joining Haudenosaunee folk on the courthouse lawn in November for the Canandaigua Treaty Day observance. But today, we're excited to have the opportunity to be with Heidi Ostertag and to enjoy learning from her some hard stuff and some beautifully crafted messages in the film Running to Stand Still. To introduce Heidi and the film, Meg Reed, who's long been foundational in the 1816 project, will share some of her perspective on this project and what we all might learn today. Meg, thank you.
Thanks, Lyle, for inviting me to. You have no idea how great an honor it is for me to be able to introduce one of my closest friends now, and her husband, who happens to not be able to be here, but anyway, I want to first say that I too am just blown away by the progress on this meeting house, and I remember when it was moving inch by inch across the road. To think that it's now a building that's full of light again is just incredible, and kudos to you, Judy, and Lyle, and everybody else for your tenacity. You're like a bunch of terriers. So we're here this afternoon to watch a film by a really extraordinary duo of filmmakers. Heidi Ostertag and her husband, Bob Bilheimer, have been making films for 40 years this month, you said, right? Under the banner of their not-for-profit filmmaking business, Worldwide Documentaries. They have produced stunning films, beautiful to look at, that tackle some of the biggest social justice issues of our time. Apartheid, the HIV/AIDS epidemic, human trafficking, and now immigration. Their films have contributed to social justice, the rise of social justice movements and social justice reforms. They've garnered worldwide recognition, been called upon by the United Nations to produce at least one of these films. One of the films was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Documentary in 1989, I believe. And the film Not My Life, which the Quaker Meetinghouse group, 1816 group, screened at Wood Library sometime within the last decade. That film about human trafficking and modern slavery led to Bob receiving the Mother Teresa Memorial Award for Social Justice in 2019. Big deal. These people know what they're doing, really know what they're doing. So we're here to watch the film Running to Stand Still. It's about 25 to 30 minutes long. But we're really not here to just sit back and watch a film. We are here to bear witness to the fear and the courage, the desperation and the determination, the despair and the hope that these refugees and asylum seekers carry with them as they leave their homes in South and Central America and make an incredibly arduous, long, dangerous trip, mostly by foot, all the way to our southern border where they wait and wait and wait just for the chance to come into the United States legally. And we're also going to bear witness to the long decades of really inhumane immigration policy that this country has been practicing. That is the reason these people are waiting and waiting and waiting. And Heidi has, of course, an update about that particular part of the situation. But I think in order to bear witness, we need to put this issue in the context of our own lives and in the context of the history of this nation. So I'm going to do that for you. The immigrants are poor and disease-ridden. They threaten to take jobs away from Americans and strain welfare budgets. They bring with them crime. They're rapists. I'm sure you've heard something like that, maybe as recently as this week. Certainly, it's the rhetoric that was driving much of the 24 election. But the immigrants that this statement is referring to were the Irish Catholic immigrants who came to this country in the middle of the 19th century.
Wow.
And my ancestors were part of that group.
Wow.
Almost all of my Irish ancestors came during that time.
Wow.
Yeah,
Could have been said yesterday.
yep,
It probably was.
Probably was.
Yeah.
yep. So the point is that unless you're indigenous or you're descended from an enslaved African or you immigrated here yourself, you are exactly like me. You're descended from immigrants who had the guts to pick up their lives, leave their homes behind, knowing that they would probably never see it again, make the journey across the ocean or across miles and miles of land with kids in tow, just for an opportunity to make a better life and contribute to this land of opportunity that we have, become Americans. That's what they wanted to do. And it's no different today. You know, the Declaration of Independence was signed by 8 immigrants and another 10 sons of immigrants, and all of the other signers were descended from immigrants. And the Constitution of the United States was signed by 7 immigrants, and all of the other signers were descended from immigrants. That's our history, and that's important to remember. I do have notes. But in spite of that, our nation's history is also a repetitive cycle of violent hatred and mistrust of the tired, the poor, the homeless, the huddled masses yearning to live free. So when those Irish immigrants finally ascended a couple of rungs of that ladder of status, what did they do? They started using the same rhetoric against the newest waves of immigrants, and the Chinese are the ones who got it. You know, it's just mind-boggling to me. So I want us all to remember all of that as we watch this film. But first, I want to introduce Heidi Ostertag. She is the co-director and the executive producer of this film, the executive producer of all worldwide documentary films. Heidi and Bob spent weeks and weeks and weeks over several years at our southern border, on both sides of the border, talking with the refugees and asylum seekers, listening to and recording their stories, witnessing their exhaustion and fear and heartbreak, and you will see in this film their hope too. And they spent hours with the angels who work down there, who devote their lives to helping these people through their days, providing food, health care, blankets, tents, a shoulder to cry on. And Heidi herself has a huge wealth of knowledge, and I believe it's a bottomless well of empathy. And please welcome Heidi.
She's a hard act to follow. Thank you, Meg. Thank you very much. Right back at you for a lot of what you said. Thank you all. Thank you, 1816 Quaker Meetinghouse folks. Really appreciate. It's always wonderful to be back with you guys. I think you may have shown the AIDS film too. For some reason, I'm having a recollection. Maybe. Okay.
Long time ago.
I'm executive producer of Worldwide Documentaries. As Meg said, we're not for profit. We've been making documentary films for 40 years. Our mission is to make films on issues that are being underreported or misreported. We make films about the way the world is. What happens globally happens locally, as we know. Our films have focused on apartheid, global human trafficking, mental illness, and now the global migration. We believe that the general public, with facts on an issue, will act to bring about change. The goal with every one of our films is to empower individuals and organizations who advocate for fundamental human and social justice rights. They are the ones that make change and vote for those with political will to make it law. Recent events in the past weeks, I'm sure you're aware of, raids at a nutrition bar business in Cato, New York, where documented workers were hauled together because of their brown skin into the cafeteria and taken away, and many of them deported, leaving family members without a breadwinner. Park Avenue in Westminster, you may have recently seen workers up on a roof where ICE was doing a raid. Luckily, Rapid Response from Rochester came onto the scene and helped to ask ICE to leave these folks alone. They did not have a warrant. We may have seen ICE in our own neighborhoods here, in Walmart parking lots, Home Depot, Lowe's. I mean, this is happening all over the country, and it's happening here around us as well. We all agree that we need concrete immigration reform. As Meg mentioned, it wasn't pretty before, and now it's just downright cruel. The daily suffering that's these current policies are inflicting on families and children especially, not to mention small businesses, farms, and local economies, which we are feeling the effect of because of our large agricultural dairy farms in the area. We initially released Running to Stand Still in the fall of 2024 prior to the presidential election. Our goal was to put a human face on the world's immigrant and migrant communities and depict the human toll those current U.S. immigration policies were taking on children and families in the United States and countries throughout the international community. The purpose of Running to Stand Still is to encourage dialogue, educate the public about the injustices of our current system, and identify pathways to humane immigration reform. The film has been exceptionally well received in screenings and events around the country during this early launch. All those who have viewed the film, I humbly say, have attested to the urgent need for a film like Running to facilitate dialogue. I want to just do a bit of a disclaimer. This is about Running to Stand Still. There should be no mistaking that the U.S. government is waging a kind of war on migrant, asylum-seeking, refugee, and immigrant populations with tragic and alarming results. The current administration has been systematically reshaping U.S. asylum and migrant policies through a series of cruel executive actions, ultimately creating a climate of fear and betrayal that has driven immigrant communities underground and created a moral and economic crisis that is growing exponentially throughout the country as a whole. Images of ICE and Border Patrol agents smashing car windows, dragging mothers out of the car with children in the back seat are all very, very hard to watch. With no end in sight to the cruelty of this administration toward immigrants, we have made the decision to selectively update Running to Stand Still to accurately reflect what is currently happening on the ground in communities all across the U.S. We believe we have found an effective, creative ways to keep running up to date while at the same time preserving its basic and timeless message that we are all human beings and as such have a responsibility to one another that transcends political ideology. Keeping up with the moving target of current U.S. immigration policy is a storytelling challenge for us. But the one thing we know that will not change is the cruelty of these policies over the next 3 years. We are very much in a one-step-at-a-time mode right now, but are hopeful that the updated version of Running, which will be released just after Thanksgiving, will generate new interest and will help carry the film into a national dissemination campaign in 2026, right through the midterm elections. The positive response and demand thus far for Running continues to grow. I just wanted to mention that the film will be updated. I did talk to the organizers of this event, but I just wanted you to, when you keep in mind what you're seeing today, this part will not change. It's the human story that we feel is the one way, maybe the only way to get through to some people. There are many, many people now that are questioning these policies, and those are the folks we need to tap into. So again, thank you. I'll be happy to answer any questions afterward, and thanks for coming.
Heidi, are you willing to answer questions?
Sure. I can give you a couple updates too. Wilson, who's in the fire, who died twice. Thanks to Dr. Elmore and some other great doctors in El Paso, last month he was finally able to stand on his own and take steps on his own. He got his GED, he's been learning English, and he has some dental work done, so I mean, he's really, he's really come a long, long way. Unfortunately, because of the stress, and he only has temporary status, he decided to self-deport. So he's gone back to Guatemala, and which you would totally understand, but he came to the U.S. to try to find work to send money back home. And yeah, this is how it's turned out. Dr. Elmore, I recently saw in Charlottesville, where he now is a fellow and practicing in the ER at UVA, said that he's very concerned about Wilson because he will not be able to continue the therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, maybe to some degree, but it won't be the quality of care that he was getting in the States. Juliana, with the 3 girls, I actually was just in touch with her husband this morning. They are in the Midwest. They are from Venezuela. They had temporary work permits, and they're here on temporary status, protective status, which any given day, I don't know, I have to check. I don't know if we're in an appeal or where we are. But they have been in hiding. The girls did go back to school. They had started their life, about a year and a half ago. We're doing very, very well. They had a roof over their head. The girls were in school. They were thriving. Gustavo and Juliana started a small sort of handy person business between the 2 of them. And then, of course, we had the election. They went into hiding. Juliana decided she wanted to self-deport back to Venezuela with the girls because, again, just the stress of living in fear, and where they are in the Midwest has been a big target of ICE raids. So she contacted the government through the CPB-1 app that was turned into an app of, if you want to self-deport, you can apply through there. It took a while because the girls didn't have a passport, that kind of thing. They were all set. The government called and said, your plane's leaving on Saturday. They had sold everything, trying to bring back to Venezuela as much money as possible. Gustavo was going to continue to stay in the States and try to work to get more money and then self-deport. And they got a call the day before, the Friday before the plane was supposed to take them back, and they said it was canceled, and they have not heard from the government since. So they are living in a limbo right now of trying to self-deport legally, but they don't know who to follow up with. So right now, they are trying to find an apartment because the one they've been living in, the house is being sold, and we've been trying to help put him in touch with organizations that can help find housing, but any landlord is going to want to see a check stub and verification of work. Well, he's Venezuelan. A lot of people are not gonna hire him because they don't want ICE showing up at their place of business and so on. So, you know, they're on the verge of homelessness. So, he's asking for financial assistance if you know, to try to help. He's got a 6-month gig job that he's hoping he can keep, but he's, you know, asking for financial help just to keep, you know, them going. Dr. Elmore actually left the University of El Paso. He had started Clinica Hope, which was bringing health care across the border. He was doing pop-up clinics and working in shelters, bringing health care and whatnot. But there's nobody at the border anymore. There's nobody in the shelters anymore. So his fellowship moved to UVA, and he's a bit in limbo now because he has a fellowship, but there's nobody there to treat. So he's trying to find other, you know, ways that he can, you know, provide health care where needed and so on. So he's becoming, you know, a very active advocate, and he, you know, whenever there's a screening, he offers to do Zooms and things like that. So that's, and the rest of the folks in the film are continuing to do all their advocacy work as well. So are there any questions?
How much do you know about any personal experience that any of the immigrants you know have dealt with ICE?
I don't, nobody in the film that I know of, as I say, so far has had a face-to-face encounter. I've heard of a lot of encounters in the area.
Mm-hmm.
There is someone here that might be willing to talk about the situation in Oswego, in the Cato area, but I do know that I'm doing a lot of research right now because we're not going to go out and do any filming because, thank goodness, there is so much on social media where people are documenting these atrocities on a daily basis. And it's just horrific.
Yeah.
I mean, you have people that are holding their papers.
Mm-hmm.
There's no warrants. There's photographers that are in the Manhattan Immigration Court on a daily basis, and the footage that they're posting is just heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure that there are some good Border Patrol and ICE agents. We lucked upon one that appears in our film, but it's hard to know, too, who's behind the mask.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right.
Because there's vigilantes. Having worked in human trafficking, human traffickers love chaos.
Oh, yeah, right.
And you have children now that are coming home and their parents are gone.
Oh.
So I'm sure that you know, traffickers are taking advantage of what's going on in the States now as well. So it's, you know, but it's, you know, I really don't believe that some of these folks with masks are ICE and Border Patrol.
Do you know what happens when a kid comes home and nobody's there?
Thank goodness there are neighbors, I think, that are stepping in. I don't know with every case, but I mean, like in Rochester, when their rapid response call went out, you know, the people came to be witnesses, if nothing else, to take people's names as they're being taken away, you know, so that they can try to find a family member. I've seen examples of neighbors doing a chain, a human chain around a house to keep, you know, the federal authorities from approaching the house. But there's also horrific instances of people staying in their car, which is what the lawyers tell them, stay in your car, ask for a warrant, get your attorney on the phone. People don't open the, you know, their doors are locked. So the agents ask 2 or 3 times, and if you don't open your door, they take a hammer and they smash it and pull you out.
Right.
So I think, you know, but there's a lot of good people that are witnessing and being out there to make sure they witness. There's a big group I know in California that is hitting all the Home Depots and Lowe's.
Right.
I don't think, I think they've pretty much cleaned everybody out in the LA area, the day laborers there, but, you know, there's a very large group of people that are, you know, every morning, they are in the parking lots watching.
So they actually taking the people that have the papers that are actually here legally, still taking them, and then detaining them for days, and hopefully, once they've verified that their paperwork is good, they are letting them go.
They are letting them go. But everything that, you know, that they've just gone through didn't have to happen.
Right.
The cruelty of it, and the other thing is the immigration courts. There was an excellent piece that CBS News did about, they interviewed 3 lawyers, immigration judges who quit because they were being instructed to cancel their cases that were coming in that day. Because if they dismissed the case, the person showed up, they were immediately illegal because they no longer were in process. And they were doing this on purpose, and ICE was outside the doorways, and the judges quit, and they're speaking out. There's a lot of judges that have quit, which is not good because we had a shortage of immigration lawyers or judges to begin with.
It's taking that much longer,
Yeah.
but at least I'm assuming they quit because they didn't want to dismiss the
And they're
case
speaking out, right,
Yeah,
and they're
right.
speaking out, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So thank goodness.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
Is there any place that we can send money to be used by people along the border helping the people coming in?
Yes, I have what you can do, some takeaway cards. We also have information handout cards on our project as well that you can take. Hope Border Institute is in El Paso. We work very closely with them. Bishop Seitz is affiliated with them, who appears in our film. Dylan Corbett, who appears in our film. They're very much on the front lines of this issue, only in a different way now because there isn't anybody there at the border anymore. But for instance, Bishop Seitz and a delegation from El Paso just went to the Vatican a week ago. And prior to that, they called us and they said, listen, we're going to put together a 4-minute video to present to Pope Leo with 150 letters that we have from immigrants and family members who are writing about what they're dealing with, and we're going to present them to Pope Leo. So we said, yes, of course, you know, use whatever footage you want. So, so they actually made like a trailer for Running to Stand Still because they used a lot of the footage. But a week ago, they had a private audience with Pope Leo, and they presented the letters. Bishop Seitz did. He represents the Catholic Conference of Bishops. He runs the Migration and Refugee office for now anyway. And I woke up to, you know, these posts on social media, and someone had a laptop in front of Pope Leo, and I could see it. The image was from our film. So Pope Leo got a chance to see excerpts from Running to Stand Still. But they're hoping this 4-minute video will be embraced by the Vatican and used globally, and then thus also open the door for Running to Stand Still. Pope Leo did say to Bishop Seitz that he wanted him to take back the message to the Catholic Conference of Bishops that they need to step up and do more.
Wow.
So Bishop Leo's really, really on this issue. And it was great because the New York Times covered that meeting, NBC News, it was all over social media and stuff. So, so we're hoping that once we get this film updated, that we'll find financial support so that we can distribute the film, not only to the Catholic communities, but to schools, other NGOs. These folks don't have any money, so that's why we're looking for underwriting to keep us. We know the network, thankfully, because we've been doing this for so long. The grassroots organizations, which is really, really important, like what you guys do, because these are the folks that mobilize, these are the folks that get the word out. So we want to give them a communications tool. So we're hoping that we can find the additional funding we need to really hit the distribution hard because of the midterms next year. That's the only hope we've got for the next 3 years, is to try to shift that Congress.
How much is the film being shown around?
It's been shown around here quite a bit. I think like all of you, I mean,
Right.
it was kind of shell shocking, you know, the first few months, because boy, they just been, you know, firing it off, and then we realized Running to Stand Still needs to be updated because people are going to look at it and say, oh, well, that's the way it used to be.
Right.
But the message is, we want to try to get across is that, you know, again, nobody wakes up in the morning and wants to go through all that.
No.
I mean, Juliana provided us off her cell phone footage of walking across that rickety bridge through the Darien jungle. We wanted to let these folks tell their own story. But we need to now include what's happening here with the new policies. But again, not name names, but just present the facts.
How do people get access to the film if they want to show it? I'm thinking Oswego County.
Yeah. Again, the handout cards are out there, and my email address is on the card. We're hoping to get the film done by the end of, before Thanksgiving. We're planning a premiere of the film in Rochester at the Dryden Theater on December 8th. It'll be a fundraiser for distribution for Running to Stand Still. We're finding, you know, that people have a lot of questions and they're confused. You know, why are we a sanctuary city? Why, you know, what's happening here, so on and so forth. So I've invited, I thought it would be good to have a town hall meeting after the screening of the new version. So we've invited, and these folks are confirmed. Mayor Evans, Malik Evans, is going to do the introduction. We'll have Gary Craig from Democrat and Chronicle. He just retired. He's going to moderate. 2 city council persons, somebody from the Farm Workers Coalition, the principal of the Rochester Academy, which is a school on Park Avenue, which has been the school for most refugees in the city, and someone from Catholic Charities who used to run the resettlement program, which of course doesn't exist because there's no one to resettle. Yes?
I have a question, excuse me. There's an organization, which I think some of you, if not all of you, are familiar with in Canandaigua, called Call to Care Canandaigua. And I know that they've been sponsoring at least a couple of refugee families. Is that still, are they still able to do that? And how safe is that for the families here?
Frankly, I don't think anybody's safe right now.
That's what I'm worried about.
Right,
That's what
right.
I'm really worried about.
Linda Wirtz, who is founding founder of Call to Care, her daughter is here. Can you say sort of, I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been challenging for the organization, and it's been difficult for the families too. As Heidi said, things seem to change day by day, right? So it's like one day the Haitian refugees family have, you know, their status is okay, and then the next day the Trump administration overturns that, and then a week later it's changed again. So I think it's just continually keeping up with what the administration is doing. There's a number of families in Canandaigua that have been sponsored by Call to Care, both there's Haitian families and Ukrainian families, and they are a part of the community. Some of them have moved on to different places in the country, but you know, it's an organization that is still working, still helping these families come here. The Ukrainian families that have come here, I mean, they were, you know, their country is at war. Yeah. Haiti has just had generations of challenges for families there. So, and I just have to give a big shout out to my mom. She's been helping immigrant families since when I was about 9 years old. She was a driving force in our community in Newark, helping Cambodian families come to the United States after the Vietnam War and all the problems that happened there. And those families, she keeps in touch with them. We know them. They've gone on to do amazing things in this country. They're citizens. They're business owners. They're college graduates, they're like everybody in this room. And so, yeah, Call to Care is a great organization, and super proud of my mom for what she does, so, yeah. She's actually on a pilgrimage right now in Spain, so
It blew my mind when I heard about Call to Care. I mean, we're based in Bloomfield, but I didn't know about Call to Care, and I'm like, Canandaigua? Really? and then I'm like, gosh, it's just, I was speaking to a member of Call to Care about how I was checking in on the Haitian families. And he was saying, you know, he said, we just kind of follow along with them. This is what they're used to, you know. They focus on what's in front of them right now, today. They go and play soccer, they do their jobs, you know, and you just go with the flow. I think you know, the people who run Call to Care are, you know, the ones who are a nervous wreck. But
yeah, and they set up like good neighbor teams. So
yeah.
just help these families with every part of what, you know, whether it's getting the kids to school-age kids to practice or whatever they're doing, and helping the parents get jobs and assimilate into the community. And I think these kinds of organizations are needed now more than ever. So I feel like my mom was ahead of the curve with that. So.
I think she was. I think she was.
What's your mom's name?
Her name is Linda Wirtz. She's actually nominated for an Athena Award because of her work with Call to Care. So yeah, she's a real inspiration.
Yeah. Definitely. So we mentioned what was going on in Cato, and there's someone here, Erin, from the area, or who's working with the Cato families, and if you could give us a little bit of an update on that whole situation.
Easier on folks. Hi, my name is Erin, and I'm a little bit under the weather. I got my 2 vaccines yesterday, so I'm not but and gosh, thanks. I think, and your husband and the production that you've created, and for the variety too, you know, the trafficking and everything. So that's just a huge dedication to the work. Thank you. Really.
Can you talk louder?
I can try to. Just a really big dedication to that work.
Thank you.
So really appreciate just even being able to try and say a couple of words here. I'll try and keep it as brief as possible. But Judy's a dear friend, and I know a couple of you now in the room. And excuse me, I live in Fulton. I'm from Fulton. I went away and came back and started working with the Fulton City School District in 2022 and was there for about a year and a half. And my job there was to work with the Spanish-speaking community and kind of try and create a little bit more of a bridge between parents and the district. There were, by that time, they got rid of the role, so I'm on to different things, but at any rate, there are about 50 or so families, 45 to 50 at any given time, and since January it's been really bad, and you get phone calls, you know, texts saying, oh my gosh, they've taken like 2 or 3 people. There was a stop because it first started out as, you know, the sheriff and stopping people in cars, etc. And then we did get some people back. I don't want to also, you know, there's what we see on social media, and those are the bigger things, and they keep our attention. But there's some middle of the road things, which is, I don't know, the only good thing sometimes. At any rate, yeah, there was a big raid in Cato, and there was about at least 20 or so of the families. And this was in the beginning of September. And gosh, I didn't write anything out, so there's just a lot of things that come to my brain, really. And I'm a part of, it's called SEARDN, which is the Syracuse Immigrant and Refugee Defense Network. They're a branch off of Worker Center out of Syracuse, and they are just tremendous organizers. So I've been with them for a couple of years, and we just banded together. We banded together with folks out of FlexCERN, it's called, the Finger Lakes Rapid Response. and a few other, there's New York Immigration Coalition, and so just people who, we just went, oh my God, and made, you know, a big spreadsheet, and where are people, and the really hard part out of this one was we couldn't find people. And they didn't want us to find probably people, and they wanted to, and a couple of articles now have come out on how there is just a tremendous, just an insane map of bringing people around, and you can't get people, if they're in border patrol, you can't get them a lawyer, they can't really communicate with any families, et cetera. So it was, sometimes it was several days before we could even try and locate, and then by that time, they were in Louisiana or Texas. 3 days after it had even happened, a handful of people had been deported. I mean, it was 72 hours. It was from a Thursday to a Sunday morning. And I was sitting in an interview, I'd gotten an interview with a dad whose, the wife had been taken. So we're sitting at the table with a reporter, me, 3 kids, and the dad. And a message comes in that says, they're in Guatemala. And we went, what? And it was crazy. There were at least 3 or 4. The woman on the phone said that mom was there too. It turns out she wasn't, thankfully. But there's just a myriad of these sorts of things, you know. Yes, some had paperwork, some didn't, and this whole idea of paperwork is just a huge spectrum, and we know, you know, it's just like, there's so many, and also to that whole end of the you know, what is said in here is like, just keep narrowing this, who can be here. Everyone becomes a criminal. And, you know, and we know this too about even transporting someone across a state line. If you're in a southern state, perhaps, then, you know. But we still have a lot of folks that are just doing the work. I mean, that's the thing. I think that, you know, you do what needs to be done. You know, you take what is this place, this, you know, Quakerism founded on this idea, or I should probably, but just, you know, you take risks for the greater good. And I think you also, so this was just an article about the rally that we had in Fulton, and I too, this is from the New York Immigration Coalition. We're really trying to, there's actually November 15th in Syracuse going to be an educational, like, because I think that's the thing, and that's probably maybe Heidi, what you were saying too, is like people want to know, and we have, yeah, but how do I, and et cetera. And, well, what if I've had this one couple said that they wanted to deliver food, and then they did it once, and they came to a home, you know, to a family that had been affected, not by this, but a prior thing, and then they got really scared, and they said, well, someone's gonna get, you know, my wife's gonna get, you know, in trouble or something, and I said, okay, you don't have to do anything, that's okay. And they bowed out, and which is fine. But I say all of that because, you know, those scare tactics work. But this and those things about education, because very much, and I really hone in on this example, is that employees and people know what their rights are, because that sort of, what can we do? ¿Qué se va a hacer? Like, you know, the gentleman who, the owner, opened the door.
You shouldn't have opened the door. Well, but you don't expect us to show up either.
And that's the thing, it's the practice. And there are know your rights things on YouTube. I can sign anyone and everyone up for know your rights.
Cards out there.
Yes, the cards, and is to practice it, to say it out. There's something going on, I got sent on this very simple YouTube. You know, there's 3 or 4 things to say when you're in a car, and it's very simple, and a lot of times they go away. They go away. When they know that you know, they leave. Sometimes. yeah.
So what is?
What these are, good question. Go ahead and take, these are what to do if you see immigration enforcement, and it's, yeah, go ahead. Oh, no.
Did you mean to say that when the couple went to the house, they were frightened by ICE, not by the people in the house?
Correct, they were not frightened by the people in the house.
Okay, 'cause
They
that's what it
were,
sounded like.
oh, I'm sorry, no. They were frightened that somehow someone would get wind that they delivered food to a family that, you know, was legitimately very there. And I think that that's a lot of the, yes.
The whole point of this administration is fear, right? And it's very scary. I mean, I was in Lima today, and, you know, there was some folks going by that were being obnoxious and stuff, and you worry if somebody didn't turn their car into the crowd, you know, or whatever.
Right.
But what is really sinking in, even, you know, for me, and I do this all the time, this is not a rehearsal.
Right.
This is happening to our country now.
That's what Rachel says on
Yeah.
MSNBC.
It's happening now, and we can't sit and, you know, I'm
Think
not
somebody
saying you.
else is gonna do it.
Exactly, said someone, we all have to do it, because this is a big fight, and we are still a democracy, we still have rights, and we have to exercise that. But don't wait until we don't.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it's that practicing, you know, whatever that sort of looks like, but is knowing the script. There's a basic script, like, am I free to go, these types of things, like if you're in a car, if you're being detained, if the person next to you who happened to be, we are doing a fundraiser still for this is specifically for the Cato folks. I have parents who are, you know, just waiting for passports
And you
for
can
their
leave
kids.
those out on the table, there's a table out there too.
Thank you, and I know Heidi said that she had
Yeah, I mean,
fundraising
there's
things.
a lot of places that obviously, we're all not-for-profits, I mean, you guys are as well, you know, we're all looking for funding, but, you know, do what you feel is in your heart, where you want to put your funds, because they'll be used well. But the other thing about Cato is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're interested actually in updating our film and including the Cato story, because what I found so compelling is that the community, which is what, 2,000 people, I mean, how many people live in Cato? Not many.
I didn't even know what you meant by Cato. I've
Yeah.
never heard that it was a town.
Yeah.
So I think that might be good to say,
But
the
they
town
rallied.
of Cato.
Yeah, but the community rallied around these families,
Well,
right?
I don't know. I personally don't know the factory happened to be there. The people who worked there all pretty much lived in Fulton
Okay,
or Auburn. And those, I don't know what, I could be totally wrong, but being
I
that
read in
Cato-
some of the earlier articles, whether it's Cato or Auburn or the surrounding areas, but the communities supported.
There have been a lot of,
Yeah,
and
that's really important to the show as well, that communities are rallying, just like the human chains around homes and things like that.
We could continue
I
this
know.
discussion for a long time, it's 3:30, but thank you, Heidi.
No, you're very
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.